Welcome to the iNetrepreneur Radio Show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNetrepreneur Media Network from magazines, TV, and radio network, we're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. At least it's afternoon here in Arizona. It could be anytime, anywhere in the world. So it could be good morning. It could be good evening. It could be like, why haven't you gotten out of bed? But I'm glad you're here with us today, and I'm excited. And it's really interesting to me because in the intro, it talks about celebritypreneurs. And so often we think about celebrities who are on television, or they have, these fantastic radio shows, or they're just like these super high-powered authors. But you know what? I also sometimes think of it's kind of like the millionaire next door. Celebrities are right next door to you. Now, they may not get the same publicity, let's say as a Tony Robbins, but you know what? It doesn't mean that they don't have any more, any less impact for you, being that they're in your community, or they work with you, or they, happen to have, friends, or you're in a soccer league with kids. All of these things, matter. And so, when I think of celebritypreneur, what I'm really thinking about is who are the people next to you that just create a tremendous amount of impact that resonates and is meaningful for you, another entrepreneur, business owner, or influencer. And I think that that's really important when we look at that. Celebrity just doesn't have to be out there. Celebrity really can be, right next door. I want to remind everyone that we have the 365 days of inspirational quotes. This is the book cover right here, but quite frankly, this is the old book cover. We have a new book cover, which has our international best-selling book, or I might be butchering that, but I'll be taking the task a little bit later on in the show. But we have the best-selling badge that will be on that book, and I'm so excited. So even if you already have the book, keep it. It will be a great collector's item. But if you can get the book again, have that best-selling badge. So when you're at an appointment, you're on stage, you're doing an interview, etc., you can hold up that book with that best-selling badge and wear it with pride. If you want to get your book, go to mybook.to/art of connection 2. mybook.to/art of connection 2, and you can get your book there. And it's normally $25. We still have it priced for $15.97. Such a price, such a great price. Also, for those of you who didn't get in the first or second book, or if you want to continue the history, please go to 365 days of transformationalquotes.com. That's 365 days of transformationalquotes.com. Yes, it is a lot to say, but right now we make it worth it, because just by saying it, we go from $550 down to $197. If you're looking to build awareness, if you're looking to leave something to the world, if you're just looking to put yourself out there, this is a great opportunity, to be a part of a community that is just growing by leaps and bounds. We want you to be a part of this. We want you to show your greatness. Also, the iNetrepreneur Network, we put on over 1,000 meetings and events, academy classes, summits, so many other things. Just go to ntevents.net. That's ntevents.net. So you can see us live and in action, whether it be a chapter meeting or an academy class, etc. Also, like us. Go to facebook.com, just put in iNetrepreneur Radio, it will come up, so anytime that we come on, Facebook will show this show to the world. And please, I'm always looking for guests to come on to the show, whether you're a member or not a member. If you have a story to tell, you have a gift to share, you want to create some awareness, just, contact me up and I'd be happy to talk with you getting on the show. Also, I'm really excited. Our current magazine with the cover guy, Jeffrey Morris of Dream Start Academy. He is on our cover this quarter, iNetrepreneurMagazine.com. You can subscribe to our magazine. You can order a copy, or you can just take a look at it from our website itself. We do it in a wonderful little flip. We're really excited that Jeffrey Morris is on our cover. I mean, he's an outstanding behavioral expert, probably one of the top 10 people in the world, and he is our current cover of the magazine. And like I said, when it comes to being a celebrity, solopreneur, sometimes they just live next door. He just happens to live next door in San Diego while I'm here in Mesa, Arizona. So, so just a little bit about that. So let's get on with the show. I'm really excited to bring on my good friend, Miss Natalie McQueen. How are you, Natalie?
Good, Robert. How are you?
I am good. I mean, I love that you do it. You do things the right way, Natalie. You got your name, you have your business right there. So I am not going to confuse you with some other type of legacy outfit. You are gifts of legacy. So I appreciate that so much. So again, hello everyone. And Natalie, it's been kind of a journey for you and I. We came in, we worked on the second book together, and I feel like it's been a passion project, but really, I think a lot of your history really comes from your background in your youth as a child. My belief is you've always looked at the world maybe a little bit differently. You're like art of the heart. And so we will get onto that in the show a little bit later on. But right now, tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from, and let's get a little bit of that Natalie spice on the show today.
Sure. Thank you. So, grew up in Northern Ontario, Canada, where our winters were pretty extreme. And that probably drove my husband and I to move to Arizona. We've been in Arizona for, since 1995. And so we've actually been here longer than living in Canada or in the US. So, yeah, I grew up in a little town that, you had multiple families that were very close. So you had multiple mothers watching your every move and making sure you're on the right track, and then friends forever. I have friends from kindergarten that I still talk to on a regular basis, and we get together and just have a blast. So, yeah.
And you say little town, but what I have found for a lot of people who do come from little towns actually make a big impact. And what I mean by that it's not only your family that gets to know you. It's the school, it's the neighbors, it's the neighbors' kids. There's so many other special, probably reflections that you have growing up in a little town. But how has that little town made a big impact on you?
For sure. Just having those relationships. I think relationships, friendships. I met my husband in the summer after grade 8. And we've been together for, I think we're going on 31 years.
Wow,
So,
that is great. You know, and what were your parents like, Natalie? Did they mentor you, or did you embrace what they were teaching you, or are you one of those kids that it's like, whatever you say, I'm going to do the opposite because I don't want it.
well, there's a lot of both of that. No, I had an amazing family. Both my parents were from big families, musical backgrounds. So when all the family got together, it was a celebration. It was, our traditions. On my father's side, we had the Newfoundland traditions and the music. And on my mom's side, definitely music and art. So much art and um, different things that I've picked up and just grew up with. I've got the best role models and mentors in my aunts and uncles and family. So yes, my
You,
parents were
you know,
amazing.
and yeah, and so much of the time, and see that's why I bring that up. We love stories, don't we, Natalie? Sometimes it's the hero's journey. Sometimes it's going from insignificant to truly significant. And yeah, but sometimes it's to me it's always nice to hear of a story when it's like, what, I did have a mom and dad. I did have a nuclear family. I did have them put time into me. You don't always have to be broken to achieve greatness, do you?
Right. You're exactly right. You may not appreciate it when you've grown up that way and have that love and support around you. I really saw that in the recent probably 10 years where I've been a mentor to a couple younger people. that didn't have that in their family. So when they came into our family and saw some of our traditions and our lighthearted fun and just how we all cook together, and it's just, the things that we take for granted, they didn't grow up with that privilege.
And I love how you pursue your passion. I mean, I don't know how many times, we're working together and we're working on a project, and you'll say to me, "Hey, hold on, I got a call from my daughter," or "Hold on, my grandmother, it sent me a message, and I just want to let her know that I heard it." I mean, I don't look at that as an intrusion at all. I look at it as a blessing, because it's like, I want more of that out there. I want us to feel like we do have bonds that are even stronger than the even the business part of our lives. I mean, we need to have them both, but it's also nice to see that family can be there.
Yeah.
And we're not alone. And sometimes family may be biological, sometimes it may not, and sometimes it may be a combination. But I love that you really cherish where you're at in your family and the lives of your daughters, etc. Another thing, I really find it interesting, because we're going to get on to what your business is and what your gifts are now. But I mean, when you told me that you had a financial background, it blew my mind, because I remember the first time I saw you, I was at an event. It was an in-person event before COVID. And
Yeah.
believe me, when I was looking across the room, I didn't see you as, being a financial planner or a trader or a number cruncher for anyone. I looked at you as a kindred spirit who just really wants to help, people, become the best versions of themselves. What was it actually like when you were in the financial world? And then kind of tell me, what was that pivot point that got you out of that financial world?
Yeah. So what's funny is I didn't have that background. I was kind of introduced through my personality and how I work with people. And so I ended up training with the company. I was with Morgan Stanley. And it ended up that I loved that in so many ways, because even though it wasn't my passion watching the stock market every day, I got to, enjoy it and see it as a little bit of a not a game, but but I loved the people that we worked with. I loved I think we had 29 brokers that we worked with, and I was in operations, so I had to make them behave and stick with all the guidelines, because I was the one that got audited every year. So
Um,
that was fun.
Well, so that means you had a lot of responsibility, but I think in certain ways, some people look at the financial portion of their life as their scorecard. You know, I don't think that you and I do, but there is a portion of a person's life that is based upon that scorecard, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah. Um, the way I ended up getting out was my husband um, had an opportunity to take a job in South Carolina in pharmacy. So he brought it up, and I said, let's go for it. And off we went to South Carolina for 3 years. We did return after 3 years, but I got the taste of being in the customer service world, in interacting with people and helping them. And once again, publishing kind of was an accident. I ended up helping someone with publishing, and then saw that I had a gift working with authors and getting their stories out, and showing them ways that they can take their stories and monetize and build a business around it. And that's what I've been doing for, gosh, probably close to 7 years now. And finally, well, I won't jump ahead.
Well, because really, what I really want to say is, you've always had like this in the importance of family, and I'm bringing back that. But then somewhere in there, it wasn't enough just to have the importance of the family, of the right now, in maybe helping your kids, and mentoring other women, and maybe even young men. You started thinking deeper, and you started thinking about, like, almost like the lineage of families,
Mhm.
and what did it look like, and just having this creative eye to say, what do we lose this history forever? I mean, this
Yeah.
family history, the very vibration that creates this, what, or do we live in this time of technology, and communication where we can create some legacy out of that? Because, helping authors is one thing, but all of a sudden you're like saying, here's authorship, here's my love of family, here's my love of business. And all of a sudden one day, did you just wake up and you said, you know what? I have this concept, and I just want to be able to share it to this, to the world. But what got you to start thinking about legacy as a prime, component of what you do?
Yeah. So I think the big thing was my grandma, who it will be 103 this August, has been such a role model for our family. And, she still is so active and just cares about everyone. And I describe in my book, my grandma, when you are with her, you feel like you are her favorite person and nothing else matters in the world. And she just gives you that undivided attention. And I just remember always thinking, like, oh, I'm grandma's favorite. And she had like 20 or 30. I can't even keep up with how many grandchildren and great grandchildren, but she made all of us feel that way. And that was such a special time. I remember she got very sick when she was 86 years old, and we were living in Arizona. And I said to my husband, I have to go back to Canada and visit with grandma because she's 86. She may not be around for much longer. I have to, take
Yeah.
advantage of this time. And 87, 88, 90, 96. Now we're about to celebrate 103. So I've been so blessed. Um,
But I'm glad that you brought that up, because I mean, really, quite frankly, you don't know. You know,
yeah,
you don't know. I mean, as I've gotten older in my life, I've seen, friends even from high school and junior high and elementary school, and they're no longer with us.
right.
And so much of the time, I'm 57 now. You think that they're going to, I guess, travel with you. As I keep getting older, they're going to keep getting older with me. And,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. And like when I sit down with my mom, who's going to be turning 81 this year, and, she's seen a lot of people pass away from her class. And, it really gets you to think. And see, here's something that you and I share, Natalie, is, my mom and I, for the longest time, we wanted to sit down, with my grandmother,
Yes.
my abuelita. And, and so my mom did as well. But the thing is tomorrow came too fast,
Yep.
and we never got to get those, final words, or that history, and we were never able to memorialize it. And I think to this day, it's just like we had the technology, but we just didn't take the time. And
We
I
think
told,
that we're invincible.
yeah,
We think that we will always have that tomorrow. And that, Robert, is what made me form my business. I went
mhm,
on vacation with my family and my husband, and I had a near death experience and almost didn't come home. And it was a couple weeks later that it really hit me. And I started playing the what if game. And I thought, what if my daughters never heard my final wishes and words for their lives? What if my husband had to be a single parent and raise um, my daughters, just by himself? And what if my parents had to, just too many what ifs? And
yeah,
that's when I thought, you know what? I'm not special. I'm not the only person that's had a near death experience. I'm not the only person that made a go to the doctor and get a diagnosis or something, that they have a shortened life window. So that's where I thought it is so important for us to take advantage of today, to live your life without regrets, but to create the life that you want and not live it as you think other people want you to live it. Live authentically, appreciate the relationships that you have in your life. Don't waste time on stuff that doesn't matter. And then think about the type of legacy at the end of the day that you want to be remembered for. Do you want to be remembered that you worked, 20-hour days? Or do you want to be the person that stopped a business meeting to take a phone call for family because family's first, and, showing the importance of what, Robert, you and I have worked many hours together, and we always say we need to have our spouses come in and just have that appreciation, that thank you for understanding. There's just, our world is too short and unpredictable, but we can't live it in a negative way. We have to embrace and just take advantages of ways
Absolutely.
to leave your
And
legacy.
you opened up my mind, Natalie, because I look at it this way, and I think, in certain ways, with the Entrepreneur Network, it's about business owners, it's about entrepreneurs, and it's about influencers. But so much of the time, we don't cross the T's and dot the I's. And what I mean by that is, when it comes to what you said, the appreciation of relationships, I mean, that, you appreciate yourself, and then you
Mhm.
appreciate your family. But the thing is if you're learning and practicing the appreciation with your family and yourself, it translates into your professional life as well. I don't think it goes the other way. It has to start with you and your family, and
Yeah.
then it goes to your professional life, and not vice versa. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And I believe that we train our clients how to respect our, how we work, or take advantage of how you work.
you know
And I've been on the side of both.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I think I've been there with you a few times on that.
yeah.
you know, but one of the things is when in creating gifts of legacies, I mean, I'm sure there's a system, there's process, there's certain things that you have to do, and you have something called the legacy system. For someone like me and maybe our audience, what does that mean when you have something called the legacy system, and that's how you help work with the clients, that you have.
Right.
In other words, what is a legacy system?
Well, the biggest, or the easiest way is, I do a 2-hour workshop that's a life legacy assessment. And because we're all different, what I think is the perfect legacy may not be what you think it is. So I take them through looking at the legal parts, do you have your final wishes? Does your family know exactly um, how you want the end of your life to go, how you want to be celebrated? A funeral, there's so many different avenues. And do they understand where, or do you have a will? Do they know where the will is? Do they know the contact people for the important documents? And then it's the heartfelt side. Do you have, if you were going to be plucked out of this world tomorrow, is there any words that you would like to leave for who? And are they in a place where those people can easily get to them and know where they are? There's so many stories of, yeah, he had a will. I think he made it 20 years ago. We don't know where it is. And it leaves the family in a very bad situation. So I've partnered with amazing people that can fill in the gaps. If you need a will, I'm not the person making your will, but I have really good resources that can take you down the legal paths. I can take you down all the other structures of how you want to. Some families love to do, and I should have had it with me, but legacy books where each family member writes a piece, and you put all your kind of favorite family memories in one book and kind of tell the history of your family. And that can be passed down. I help families do individuals where a family business person has a lot of good life experiences to share, to pass on. And so they put it in kind of a way that can be passed on for generations, that can save their family, well, to be proud of what that person has gone through and to be able to learn from them.
I think that it's brilliant, and it is meaningful because it's not just the stuff that we pass down. I think that we've lost some of the knowledge that we should be passing down. That those who come after us, can survive with and maybe even thrive with. And I think that is so important. You know, Another place that I want to talk about is international best-selling author. You know, we hear that so often, Natalie. Everyone's an international best-selling author. But
Are they?
yes, but are they? But are they? And you're right. I would love, I love to retort that because, quite frankly, I got on the other day, and even with Amazon, there's over 4,000 books that are published every day.
Every
But
day.
every day, but quite frankly, 99% of them are not international
Yeah.
bestsellers. What does it mean to you? I mean, really, for those out there, I mean, please, if you're listening to this, because this is so important, because you hear it, but I say it's like being in the Marines. You don't know what it's like until you graduate boot camp, in the Marine Corps, and you're like, man, I did it. It's an amazing feeling. But the feeling for you, and what does it mean, being an international best-selling author?
Yeah, well, it's really cool to have my own book and be an international best-selling author. And this book, I believe, hit in, 46 categories in 4 different countries. So I was so thrilled with that. There's a lot of work behind that. And you're right, Robert, 80% of people out there say they want to write a book, and less than 2% actually go through and do it. Out of the 2%, that's the 4,000 books that are published every day. The top 100 hit in a category out of the 4,000. And
Yeah.
that's your bestsellers. So it's a fraction of, we see more because we're in kind of that realm where people have a lot of followers, influencers, speakers, coaches, authors. So we probably see it and experience it more than the average person. But most books sell less than 200 copies on their launch day, and then they're done. It
Yeah.
really takes time to put together and to pick the correct categories. And like you said, with this book, our 3rd book will be coming out, but this book is made up with so many different amazing people. And the pages are just filled with inspiration and quotes that you can go through and read every day. And
It's just, like I said, you know, there's, like I say, there's 3 chairs that really compose the entrepreneur authors that are in the book. Those who are really struggling to get more awareness of who they are and what they do. I mean, certainly that's in the book. But the other 2 places, Natalie, are those authors who want to leave something behind because they understand that, it can be a part of who they are, and they can be a part of the Library of Congress, but then there's that 3rd chair, which is like, I'm just gifting something back to the world without any cause for something coming back to me, because I know it's something that's beautiful, for others. And so, if you're looking for awareness, if you're looking to add to your own legacy, or if you're just looking at inspiring others, that's really what this book is for. And I think that that's what's phenomenal about it. But but you kind of, in certain ways, and I'm going to come to the publishing part, you kind of have the most amazing job in the world, because so much of the time, we live life and we work on what we do, but you really get to work with people on who they are. And
yeah,
that's what I think is so cool about what you get to do. And it's just like, you're not a tax collector, or anything like that. You get, it's like you get the marriage of business in a way. It's like the happiest day, because when people publish that book and they see it out there or they feel it in their hands, that tangible
Yes.
piece, what does that bring to you as a publisher?
It's so awesome. I love launch day. I love celebrating. And it's such an accomplishment because people don't understand how much time and effort when you write a book. It's putting your authentic self out there, which is a little scary. It's the time taken away from your family, taken away from, your personal life or whatever you're doing. There was many nights I was writing till 3 a.m. and then back up and working at 7. And, it's a sacrifice, but in the same way, even with the art of connection, I have a couple quotes in there, and I have never considered myself, an amazing writer or anything. I think I have a great story. I think I am a good communicator, but as far as writing, I don't even enjoy it, honestly. I'd rather talk it and then that's square one right there.
Well,
But
your superpower is like, it's like the cobbler's shoes. You have your own story, but my goodness, you get so joyous helping other people get their story to the world. And it's kind of like the cobbler's shoes. Everyone has great shoes in town, but you. But I'm not saying you don't, because you do. But
yeah.
we're coming down to the end of the show, and or not the end of the show, but the end of the segment. And I wanted to make sure that everyone is able to get with you and be able to connect with you. So,
Sure.
tell us if there's any great things coming up in the life of Natalie, and if there's other ways on how we can get in touch with you.
Sure. Well, if you are interested in doing a life legacy assessment workshop with me, there's one coming up in May. And the best way is I would love to gift you the 10 tips to gift your legacy. And you just have to text 855-476-4845 and text the word legacy. It will take you in, you'll get your free gift, and then you'll be able to connect with me. And I will have the legacy life information about the workshop. And I would love to have you join. It really is important even with COVID, and we've lost too many people. And I hear the stories over and over that they wish they were prepared. They wish they had one more conversation. They wish they would have, filmed them, taken that family picture, whatever. And so don't regret those things. Be prepared. And my motto is, don't leave a mess, leave a legacy.
Yeah, I love that, Natalie, so much. And I think that's something we all need to just write it down in the palm of our hand. Don't leave a mess, leave a legacy. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's always a delight to be able to get to interview you. If you're looking to create or add on to your legacy, please get in touch with her, or you can get in touch with me. Again, I'm with Natalie McQueen. She's with Gift of a Legacy. We have a working relationship as well, and she has a wonderful heart and she has a wonderful vision for others. So, Natalie, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
Well, again, I want to thank Natalie McQueen of Gifts of Legacy for being on the show here today. She is very busy, working on a couple of other projects, but she took her time to be with us here today. And I want to say thank you for that. I'm really excited as well with our next guest. She is coming here live and in action from all the way out there, at least for me right now. Again, we're in a global audience, but we all the way out there from Queens, New York. I am with the Reverend, the most wonderful, the incredible Joanne Angel Barry Colon. How are you today?
I am well, and you?
I am doing fantastic. I mean, to have Natalie on the show and you on the show, how can I not do great? My goodness, I'm with like my passion partners. And me, I always say passion without principle is criminal, and I know that you guys aren't. You have both, and that's what makes me so excited, and I love just getting to work with both of you, and we all, are in this connective tissue of the Entrepreneur family and the art of connection. And that's how you and I met, Joanne. And it's just like you trusted me as some voice out there, a few thousand miles away. But we've been connected ever since, haven't we?
We sure have. I mean, it's to every opportunity that I get to see you on Facebook, listen to the different things you do and different events that you have, the books. I want to dive into it because I know that by being connected with you and your group, it's definitely going to help me connect with a much larger audience. So I
You know,
thank you.
and, yeah, and you said something which I thought was just very amazing and very astute. And sometimes we don't think about that. You know, I call them like community mixes or joining, through the connective tissue. In our first logo, I had all these boxes that kind of looked like a Rubik's Cube, but that's what it wasn't. It wasn't meant to be that. The original name of the organization was Network Together, you know, and it was actually developed and named by my son, because he said it's so much fun. It's so much more fun to network together than it is apart. And I thought, that is cool. And so when I sat down with the graphic designer, I said I wanted to do something that connected communities. And see, when people look at it, they say a Rubik's Cube, and I say, but what's in between the boxes? And they
Yes.
don't see it. What it really is the lines, and it's the lines that connect us together. And I think that that's what you do, Joanne. Both in larger audiences, but certainly within the individual. But what I want to do is like I did with Natalie. I just want to go back into a little bit of journey and just let's talk a little bit about your background as well. Where you grew up, and did your family? Did you have any siblings? What were some of the things, when you look to the stars, what were some of the things you imagined as a kid?
Well, I mean, I grew up in Queens. I've lived in Queens all my life, all 52 years of my life. I lived in Queens. Interesting story. I was actually born in Jackson Heights. I was born at home, and my dad actually delivered me. He came home, we'll say, intuitively, unexpectedly, and then my mom was in the bathroom, getting ready to give birth, yelling to my dad, "I think you need to call the doctor because I think I'm in labor." And he called the doctor, and the doctor told my dad, "Well, just close her legs and get her over here." And my mother
What?
said, "Yeah, I don't think that's happening." And he called 911, and by the time 911 got there, he already had me in his arms.
Oh,
So
wow.
he actually delivered me. So my dad and I have a very, I would say, unique bond, because how many children actually get to say that their father literally brought them into the world? Not was just there, but literally physically with his own hands, you know, catching me, so to speak. And so there's a very strong bond there. And I have two sisters. I'm the middle one out of the three of us, and yeah, very different from my two sisters. I think I'm probably the one the most intuitive, but yet very centered out of my sisters and I, but very close to my sisters. I wouldn't trade them for the world. As much as we have a policy. We agree to disagree, but we also agree that we'll never have a conversation that gets us to the point where we stop talking. So no
And
matter.
I think that's important. And I think sometimes I think as people mature in life, at least in my opinion, we don't attach to those little things anymore, do we?
No, no, and it's when we really think about the bigger picture, just like Natalie was saying, life is short, And if we all learned something in the last 2 years with the pandemic, is that life is short, and we're not promised tomorrow. I mean, we're not even promised the next hour from now. So every minute that we have, that we can make that connection, whether it's family or a client, whatever not, is a very important moment in time, and I treasure it, and talk about moment in time. Yeah, I'm married. I'll be making, let's see, what is it, 9 years marriage.
Good
However,
for
I know my husband from high school. my very first year
Oh,
of high school. Yeah. We dated for a year and parted ways for about 7, and then came back. And in that second time around, dating again for another year, conceived our daughter, and then parted ways again for 14 years. And then,
wow.
yeah, and then came back together again back in, I think, like 2008. And in that time frame, him and I sat down and said, well, obviously there's a reason why we keep coming back and forth. So maybe this time, how about we get to that point where we tie the knot so we don't end up parting ways again.
No, I'm like thinking about what Natalie does, and I'm not sure if you'd have one book or like a series of books, and here's one, here's two, here's three, depending on which one you want, which part of your life you want to bring out.
Exactly. And being in a relationship with my husband and having our daughter there, they're both very supportive in the different things that I do. In regards, as Natalie mentioned about writing books, I'm a self-publisher of 6 books, and also the creator of a card deck. I don't know if you can get that in the vision there. I pull it out, maybe get a bit better vision to it, and never in a million years did I ever think that I was going to be a self-publisher. Just like Natalie, to put two words together to even make a sentence, nevertheless to write books, was not something in my GPS, so to speak.
Yeah.
And to know that, I have 6 books that I've self-published, and even though I don't have my book here, the amazing Art of Connection, I believe I'm in all the 2 of them, and the 3rd one that's coming, I'll be contributing to that as well. So, own my own business as well, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about that later.
Yeah, because it's pretty incredible, and that's why I like to go into the personal, background, because I always say it's like I want to know the who, and your why, and before we get to the what and the how, because the deeper I know of who you are and why you do the things, the more it seems reasonable to me that you're going to have a passion, for the gifts that you're offering me, and the way that
Yes.
you want to serve, and to me that is very important, and the older that I get, the more important it gets too. But you also touched about something else that I think about too as I get older. It's like I remember once I learned, people, they say, "Oh, I'm getting older," and how terrible it is. And then one person told me one day, it's like, yeah, a lot of old people look at growing older as being a curse, but she said, and this was my grandma. She says, "I look at growing older as being a gift," and I just thought that was the most wonderful statement, that she told me. But you just reminded me of that. So that wasn't my question, and you just reminded me of that, and I love that about you. But but early on, some of the different businesses, did you ever pivot out, or have you always been into like, exercising and physically fit and looking at yourself, and I always say being a product of the product, or did you do other odd jobs and had different turns and went down different avenues before you got to what you're doing now in your gifts?
Well, I love that you asked that question. And the answer to that question is, from the age of 12 years old, I had an opportunity to substitute a gymnastics class. My instructor felt ill, and there was a group of women in her class, and I was the youngest of all the women, but yet the most consistent in the class. So she had come over to me and she asked me if I'd be interested in teaching her class. I was like, interested? That's amazing. Yes, of course. So here I was, 12 years old, teaching to a bunch of older women. At that time, in my mind, were older because I was only 12. They were
Yeah.
probably all about in their maybe late teens and early 20s. So from that point on, at 12 years old, I pretty much knew what it was I wanted to do. And I've stumbled onto maybe 1 or 2 different types of jobs that were not related to the health industry, and just stayed in those jobs for a very short period of time. And then I landed my very first job in the actual health industry when I was 15. And from that point on, just in my mind, I knew that this was something that I had a desire for, a passion for. And it was in my bones to want to do this. And in that time frame, being in the health industry, at about maybe 19, I started doing competitive bodybuilding and transformed my body more times than I can count in reference to being in that bodybuilding competitive state in the body. And then, of course, going back to that, your normal eating. So always having the mindset of knowing that being in the health fitness industry, I want to be able to talk my walk.
Yeah.
And to me, it's very important to make sure if I'm going to sit and be a protege of being health and wellness, I want to make sure I look that way.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Well, but along with that, my background, I've been, competitive environments, and I think I told you this before. I actually set the Marine Corps record for sit-ups in 2 minutes,
Oh,
which
wow.
is kind of a neat thing. I did 121 in 120 seconds. So, when people ask me what's a claim to fame, I say, well, that's mine, but, but you did something. You said, well, I'm a personal trainer, but you broadened the definition for you, of what a personal trainer looks like. And you added the word holistic, and I love words. Deep down, I'm really a poet at heart. And if I could just sit on a rock somewhere, chewing on grass, writing poetry, that's all I would do all day. I mean, that is totally where I dig, but what you call yourself is you call yourself a holistic trainer. And not only do you say holistic, you actually add the W before that H. And I just kind of wanted you to comment on, what is a holistic trainer? And certainly, why do you designate it with an A? With a W?
Yes. And I'm so excited that you are asking this question. It's been in my mind. I'm like, people need to know what this is and why, the big why. And to start off with, what is a holistic personal trainer? We all know what a personal trainer is, someone who stands beside a client to make sure they're doing the exercises right and helping that client get to their health and fitness goals, physically speaking, losing the weight, taking the measurements, and setting up their nutritional habits as well. Now, in reference to a holistic personal trainer, I take it, I'm going to say 10 steps more than that. It is about the physical, because I want to keep my clients' goals in mind. I don't want to discard them, because most people, when they come in or reach out virtually, they're gonna say, well, this is my goal. My goal is to be 50 pounds lighter, or my goal is to be able to fit in my jeans or bathing suit or whatever it is. And I want to honor that goal. But my mission as the holistic personal trainer is to remind them that they are more than just physical. They are an emotional being, so they have to connect with their emotion as well as to the why losing that 50 pounds is so important and why carrying the 50 pounds was so important. And then the mental state, the mindset of when they do work out, being able to visualize what it is you're looking to accomplish. And then the whole spiritual part of it is like being embodied in our body as a personal trainer, to educate the client that when they are going to do a workout, it's not just about coming in and, let's say, just doing the squats and the lunges and the lying leg curl. It's about understanding your body, how your body is connected to what I call, and what is actually called, the chakra system. So connecting within and becoming more aware of who they are: mind, body, spirit, and emotions. And their emotions play a huge role. So as a holistic personal trainer, it's getting the client to become, and this is where the W comes in, the whole person. I'm not going to just work on their physical. I'm going to work on the physical aspects. I'm going to work on the emotional aspects, because again, we are guided by our emotions every single day. I mean, there are days when we wake up and we just don't want to do something because we're emotionally tired, or we're stressed, or we're annoyed, and that detaches us from wanting to do a workout. So it's really important when I ask a client, how are they feeling? How are they doing? And you sit back and say, well, why are you asking me how am I feeling and doing? Isn't it the same thing? And it's not. How are you feeling in your body? How are you feeling good in your body? Do you like your body today? Did you look in the mirror and give yourself a compliment? Did you tell your body you love you? This is the feeling. And then how are you doing? How are you doing in your body? What are you doing in your body? And this helps the client become more embodied and start to really think the mental thoughts of their why to why they're working out. And during the workout, when they get those moments where they're looking in the mirror, it's not about looking in the mirror and shutting themselves down. It's about looking in the mirror and recognizing the progress of why they're there. Not the progress of what they're doing in the moment, like, okay, I did leg press for 50 pounds and 12 reps. It's not about that progress. It's about the progress to why they are in whether it's a gym or home or wherever they're doing their workout, the why, and embodying the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual.
It's so important because I know, I put on a Facebook live video, and before I put on that Facebook live video, I just went through surgery. It's been an 11-month journey. For some reason, they just weren't figuring out what was going on with me. So I was in constant chronic pain, gone through therapy, it affected my heart, all these things, and being a public figure, part of my duty, I felt like, is I couldn't show that. I couldn't show the pain. I couldn't show the non-sleeping. I couldn't show, the aggravation to my wife and my kids and everything. And here I am going out of there, and, and I can speak to physical and emotional. I ring the bell. It's my last day of physical therapy, and I am riding high, like I'm done. I'm ready to move on. And then all of a sudden, I want to share it with the world. And the first thing I do is, even though the physical part of me had reached a level that I hadn't been at, the emotional part of me just came flowing through, and I ended up tearing up, to the world. And, not that I'm embarrassed about that, but I'm embarrassed about that. But it also makes me know that, healing isn't just physical.
Exactly.
Healing is stored in the emotions somewhere in me, and that still needs to be released, which gets us to, like, this other world, that I'm starting to see a lot of, and it's called this emotional release technique. Tell Natalie, tell our audience, what does that even mean?
Well, I mean, the broader meaning of the emotional release is about connecting with our emotions that we've been carrying from as far as, let's say, childhood, and even further back to even past life experience, that we carry emotions that we are not allowing ourselves to show. Very similar to what you just said, where after your physical therapy, you got to ring the bell, you were so excited, you were ready to come on and do a live and talk about your victory. But because you, in that time frame of your 10 months, 11 months of healing, you never allowed yourself to experience your emotions. You literally shut it down because you didn't want anyone to see you being vulnerable. And when we shut down the emotional part of it, those emotions get caught up in our tissues, So it can show up in our shoulders, it can show up in our legs, it can show up in our hips, it can show up in the jaw, in our heart, and anywhere in our bodies, it shows up, which is physical symptoms that show up in the tissues. And until we actually address the emotions, now the beautiful thing about it is our body is so smart, where if we've suppressed the emotion for a really long period of time, and I'm just going to throw this other factor in, we have this whole world of what I like to call the cosmic energy, our planets that actually help us with this. And when our planets are doing a lot of things behind the scenes that activate our chakra system, that's going to activate the physical symptoms in our bodies. So if there is an emotion that has been suppressed, that physical symptom is going to show up, such as for you, where you were having as you said, with the heart, where you were just feeling overwhelmed and issues with breathing. So that's a physical symptom that was showing in your heart, where your heart was feeling heavy, but you kept pushing it down. So the emotional part of it had to show up. So it had to be released one way or another. And it was released through the fact that your heart was heavy, and you finally You finally were guided to come and do a live with your victory, and you were in such a vulnerable state of being in your victory that it's almost like your psyche said, here's our opportunity. Now we're going to allow him to explode emotionally. And it was totally out of your control. You couldn't stop at that point. Even if you tried, you couldn't have put those things back down because it was that emotional release that was happening. And from that happening, it created a physical release in your body where I'm almost sure you probably feel lighter today because of that experience than you did before that experience. Is that true?
It did seem like there were, I call it like carrying blankets. Yes, it did seem like I was able to throw off a blanket that just seemed to surround me, but I think that that's, like me, I'm an entrepreneur, and sometimes you know I say this all the time, Joanne, and what I say is, entrepreneurs, work far too often on what they do and not enough on who they are. And and I think that that's how you help entrepreneurs. They're like, well, how can Joanne help me? I mean, she's in physical fitness. She talks about a wholeness and this emotional release. But quite frankly, if you're able to throw this blanket, this weight off of you, doesn't it help free entrepreneurs to be the best versions of themselves?
Of course, of course. I mean, again, we come back to the emotional connection to whatever it is we are carrying. And most of us, or most entrepreneurs, are carrying something that is preventing them from being the better version, the best version, and stepping up. Because we, as entrepreneurs, we get to a point where we succeed to a certain level, and then we have to level up. I mean, it's just part of the process. You got to take the next step, but sometimes that leveling up means you have to show up even more, and that can create some fears and insecurities, which means that's going to cause you to sort of shrink again.
Right.
And that shrinkage then brings you to that point where you start questioning your success, and you start questioning yourself. You start judging, and the minute we start judging ourselves, we're in that space of not loving ourselves. And that the self-love is the formula to keep us in that space of confidence. And as entrepreneurs, I don't know any entrepreneur that doesn't have confidence. You need to have confidence to be an entrepreneur, because you have to be able to step up, you have to be able to show up, you have to be able to express. And if you don't have confidence, how are you doing any of that? So if there's an entrepreneur out there who feels that they want to do more, but they feel stuck, that's how I help.
I agree 110% with that. Well, Joanne, I have your information scrolling across the screen right now. Hopefully I spelled everything correct and it all looks good. How can members of the audience connect with you? I know I have this here, but what are other ways, or there's any other events? Let us know what's coming up in your life so we can connect with you further.
Yes. Well, the best way, which is what you have strolling across the board here, is my email, which is healingwithin76@gmail.com. And what I always love to do, because I'm a giver, it's my nature, anyone that's interested in getting a taste of what it is that I do, I offer a self-growth discovery session. And for all who is watching, it's a complimentary session. All they have to do is email to get that session. And it gives them a taste of what it is I do. We get that connection together, and see what direction we go from there. And all of my services are available virtually. So if they don't live in Queens, they don't have to stay and get upset because they think they can't get to me. My service is available virtually, so everybody has access to me.
Well, I remember when I first met you and you said you're from Queens. My wife and I were still living in Queen Creek, and I always wanted to say, yeah, from Queens to Queen Creek, but darn it, we moved to Mason. I can't say that anymore. so I'm just going to say it in retrospect of what that looked like. So from Queens to Queen Creek, we have Joanne Angel Barry Colon on our show today. And I want to thank you so much for making the time and effort to be with us today. I hope that you had a good time. And I also want to thank our guest, Natalie McQueen, of Gifts of Legacy. So if you're looking at, creating some legacy, or if you're looking for a heart-centered publisher, please contact Natalie McQueen. If you're looking to really just for me and other people, entrepreneurs, we take on the world all the time. If you're looking to release those blankets to kind of slow you down, please reach out to me or Joanne. She's definitely a heart-centered leader and entrepreneur, and she just has a passion to get those moving again. Please reach out to her. But Joanne, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this.
Oh, sorry about that. Got you. So thank you so much. Well, thank you everyone who came onto the show. Remember, we are here each Thursday, unless some big event's coming or something else that's crazy comes up. But we're here from 2:30 to 3:30 Arizona / Pacific time right now. So we're at the same time zone as Los Angeles and San Diego. Of course, I always have to mention that because we're in that crazy state of Mavericks called Arizona, where we just don't want to align with anything but our own. And that means we don't practice daylight savings time. So everyone who came on the show, I know you have places to go and things to do, but you took some time to do it with us in this last hour, and I want to say thank you for it. Please don't forget 365 days of inspirational quotes. It's at Amazon, and we're also looking for new contributing authors for our third book in the series, 365 Days of Transformational Quotes, and you can get there by going to 365 Days of Transformational Quotes.com. Again, thank you all for being here today. Make it a great week, and we will see you 7 days from now.
You've been watching the Iron Entrepreneur Show, a production of the Iron Entrepreneur Radio Network with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.